Donald, 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 Donald. Why you mad, bro? So it appears Donald Trump endorsees, at least the key ones, did not make it across the finish line. At least many of them did not. Others are still being heavily challenged and are still up for grabs at the time of this video being produced. This did not sit well with Donald Trump, and of course, the mainstream media is having a feast with it, so the two were bound to end up in a powder keg. And somehow, in the midst of this powder keg explosion, Donald Trump, in what can only be described as an irrational tirade, ends up attacking Governor DeSantis. On his personally owned social media platform, Donald Trump said the following: "While in certain ways yesterday's election was somewhat disappointing, from my personal standpoint, it was a very big victory. 219 wins and 16 losses in the general. Who has ever done better than that?" Now, it's important to note that while that statistic is true, the reality is most of the 219 wins were incumbents who were probably going to win the election regardless. One person who didn't require Trump's endorsement to win his election, at least not this time around, was Ron DeSantis, who won his election by some 20 points. It was an absolute crushing. And while voters were just celebrating the fact that Floridians made a correct decision in keeping Ron DeSantis in play, what voters don't realize is that Trump sees things through the eyes of what's good for Trump. And of course, there were concerns from Donald Trump about DeSantis being a threat to his 2024 bid, a bid that DeSantis has not really spoken much about because he's running for a governor's position and it would be inappropriate, which is something, to his credit, Ron DeSantis does not do very often. But Trump goes on, after that last True Social comment, to say this: "Now that the election in Florida is over and everything went quite well, shouldn't it be said that in 2020 I got 1.1 million more votes in Florida than Ron D got this year? 5.7 million to 4.6 million? Just asking." And the obvious answer to that question is no, Donald, it shouldn't be said. And Lord knows why the hell you just said it. The fact of the matter is, this is a midterm election, which means turnouts are not the same as they are for general elections, as more people tend to show up at the ballot boxes when the larger races, in particular the presidential race, is on the docket. But the more glaring point here is his absolute need to try and steal someone else's thunder. Now, it's true that Donald Trump did help the campaign of Ron DeSantis, his first campaign, to get the victory. But everything DeSantis does after that is attributable to DeSantis. And he would not be in the position he is now just for having gotten elected. But Trump seems to have this innate need to try and take credit for DeSantis' success. And of course, true to form, Trump couldn't help but make sure that everyone, even if they didn't want to know, that everyone knew it. I also fixed his campaign, which had completely fallen apart. I was all in for Ron, and he beat Gillum. But after the race, when votes were being stolen by the corrupt election process in Broward County, and Ron was going down 10,000 votes a day, along with now Senator Rick Scott, I sent in the FBI and the U.S. attorneys, and the ballot theft immediately ended just prior to them running out of votes necessary to win. I stopped his election from being stolen. Once again, the average voter is left to think, who cares? The fact of the matter is, Ron DeSantis is successful because Ron DeSantis makes good decisions. Now, if Trump helped him in his initial election to get elected, that's great. He clearly was the right candidate and has clearly won the hearts and minds of Floridians and is clearly a rising star in the Republican Party. Rather than go to DeSantis privately, congratulate him, tell him what a great job he's done and how happy he is that he endorsed him early on, no, instead, he almost begins to insult him. Well, he does begin to insult him. The reason he insulted him is because apparently Ron DeSantis had the audacity to decide to endorse Joe O'Dea over in Colorado, who he felt would be a good candidate. But apparently, DeSantis isn't allowed to endorse anyone that's not approved by the Godfather. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. DeSantis would be going against everything that makes DeSantis DeSantis if he were to say, I'm only going to do what Trump wants me to do. That'll never end well for Trump, for sure. And the fact is, DeSantis liked the guy, made a play, made a statement saying, I like this guy, and moved on. Joe O'Dea took that statement and said, hey, Ron DeSantis likes me, even though Trump snubbed me. And this apparently didn't sit well with Trump. So Trump now has to point out, well, Joe O'Dea lost. Okay, so did all of your guys. What are you trying to say? DeSantis did the right thing and didn't comment on it at all, which is exactly how he should have handled it, which is exactly how Donald Trump should have handled it. But of course, Trump cannot handle things that way. So Trump goes out back to Trump Social and says this. When talking about O'Dea, Trump says, Joe O'Dea lost big, make America great again. So let me get this straight. Does that mean because you didn't like him, Joe O'Dea was garbage and wouldn't make America great? Well, DeSantis disagreed. And because of that, and didn't make it a public thing about Trump that he disagreed, he just went ahead and endorsed the guy because he liked him. Now, knowing DeSantis in the way that he is, he probably didn't even watch the news to hear that Trump snubbed this guy. But he liked him, so he went ahead and made a statement about it. And Trump said this. He didn't have my support, but Ron DeSanctimonious and rhinos were all in. He could have won, but had a death wish. Very little press coverage of his loss. Very little press coverage of his loss. What does that even mean? If Trump didn't make himself such a polarizing figure, there wouldn't be a ton of coverage on the fact that his swing state guys were all failures too. Ron DeSanctimonious just went out and said some good words about a guy and moved on to his own race, which was relevant to him. There's a reality of the matter that comes with Donald Trump. He can bring in people who haven't voted before. He can really energize the crap out of the people that are all about Trump. But for every one of those people that he brings in new, there's somebody else out there that's voting against his candidate simply because of the fact that Trump endorsed him. And those voters tend to neutralize each other. That's the price of being polarizing. And you don't need to be completely polarizing to win. You don't need to be completely polarizing to get people on your side. You don't need to be completely polarizing to get people to see a different point of view from a policy perspective. But when you are completely polarizing, those people are guaranteed to never come over to your side. And it is that makes Ron DeSantis so appealing to so many Trump supporters, because you can get all of the policy without any of this type of BS, which is what people really want. It was cute at first. It was interesting at first. It was a change at first. It was shocking at first. But now it's just getting old. Now it's just getting to a place where we just want it to go away. The reality of the matter is, if we could have Trump with all of his policy decisions without all the extra baggage, people would love it. But we can't have that, and it's now been made clear. Trump just comes off looking like he's just worried that people are starting to like DeSantis more than Trump. And that, in the world of Trump being Trump, it simply cannot be tolerated. Now, most conservative-minded people operate under the premise of God, family, country. Well, for Trump, it's Trump, God, family, country. And this is evident in just about everything he's ever done. And frankly, even though I would probably vote for him again, this is a major character flaw that has always been with him. We've always known it's there, and we've all kind of overlooked it because the policy decisions were so successful on the world stage and on the domestic stage that it just wasn't something that was going to stop people from voting for him. Now that he's attacking someone else who we also all love and who we also all respect and admire, and the attack is unprovoked, it's the person attacking who begins to look strange. And DeSantis, to his credit, and keeping with his character, has not commented on the issue, nor should he, as he should just let this play out. Donald Trump has actually gone so far as to try and give DeSantis one of his little tag names, like Little Rubio, or Lion Ted, or Sleepy Joe. This is a tactic that simply will not work on Ron DeSantis, because people like Ron DeSantis. So when you start tagging people with names, it doesn't end well for you. So then what name exactly did he tag Ron DeSantis with?
Let's see, there it is, Trump at 71, Ron DeSanctimonious at 10%.
Ron DeSanctimonious? Okay, so let's just take a look at this. Number one, why, bro? Why are you mad, bro? The second part of it, DeSanctimonious, is that the best you could come up with? Okay, Trump made that up in a rage in the middle of a post. Okay, that's where that ridiculous name came from. So if you're going to attack one of the most popular people in the conservative movement today, a person who has earned that position by every way possible, you better come at him with better game than Ron DeSanctimonious. And now that you've done it, you can't really change the name. My advice to Donald Trump, not that he'd ever take it, is to go ahead, take a step back, meet with DeSantis, talk to him, and try and put this thing under the bed and hope that nobody remembers this. Because in the end, the conservative movement from a policy perspective needs the policies that both of these men adhere to. What it could do without is tirades on social media acting like 17-year-old children having a debate. And that's what I have for you today. I'm out.
And like that,